Hi, welcome to Transverse Unfiltered. I'm your host, Amber, and today we're going to talk about baby steps. First, a special thank you to everyone out there who has continued showing us support and has shared their heartfelt stories with us. It means a lot that you have shared our videos across social media, and because of you, we're able to share our story every week. I want to talk about the first time I met Phoenix's therapist. At this time, I had never seen a therapist, so it was pretty nerve wracking for me. I was going through a lot at the time, and she she really wanted to start hormone therapy. And when I went in there, I didn't know what to expect. I was only half full on board, and the other half of me was still holding on to my husband and hoping that he would change his mind. And even though I had those feelings, I still didn't want to stand in her way of her being able to transition. So anything that I had inside, I held it in and reserved, and only let the therapist know that we were full force, ready to go. So when we showed up there, we're both dying inside. She's dying to start hormone replacement therapy, because for so long she's just wanted to just peel off this shell of a body and step out to be this beautiful woman that she knows that she is inside. And when she would explain those things to me, that part of me that wished that she would still be who I married at the beginning, you just didn't care about that part of feeling that way. Her feelings were the only thing that was important. And I didn't want to stand in the way of that. There was so many stories that we watched, and people who would write in and talk to us, and and talk about how that first time they had their hormone therapy, they were able to think clearly for the first time. They were able to focus, and it felt normal and right. Their body just took to the hormone therapy, right away. And when she got her HRT, I seen that, in her. But before we got there, there was so many things that we had to do before we were able to get there. When you go to a therapist, they want you to live as a woman for a full year before they even consider HRT. And they want you to come out to your family. Like, there's a list of all these guidelines, coming out to work, and you have to be in therapy for so long, and they have to do a referral to an endocrinologist. We do live in a at will state, so she could have gone up to Cleveland and just sign waivers, but if you want your insurance to cover it, there's a lot of steps that you have to go through. And when we heard that she wanted Phoenix to live as a woman for a year, we were, I stood up and fought for her. Like, this is ridiculous. You expect somebody who hasn't started laser therapy, or is losing their hair because they've got male hormones in their body, to go and live authentically. That's insane. How about we get HRT first, and then we'll worry about those steps. When she told us that she wanted us, we had to tell our family, and we had to come out to work, and there was, I can't remember at the top of my head right at this moment, but there was a couple other steps. That next time we went there, we had every step done. She was astounded that we had it all done. Was in shock. She was drilling us for answers, like how'd that happen, how'd that work out. And shockingly, Phoenix got no negative results. It's not like that always. Some people get some bad results, losing family and friends. Phoenix got in touch with all of her family, and they said, okay, we'll accept you because we want to be in your life. And her work, they were supportive. They said, how can we help you then? And so when we went back, the last visit when we talked to her, she was like telling us most couples don't even make it, telling us we might not even make it. And for somebody who's been with their spouse for as long as I had been, this is 16 and a half years, and she's telling me I'm not going to make it. I wanted to prove her wrong, so even though we were going through our own emotional issues inside, and tiptoeing around each other, we definitely worked really hard to make sure she wasn't going to be slowed down in any way to get this transition rolling. There was times that I would say hurtful things to her, especially at the beginning. I'd say hurtful things like every other day, and then I would, it went to like maybe once a week, once a month, once every few months. And I didn't know, she's dying inside, trying to find a way to live as a woman. And she's worried about that I'm gonna leave her. At the time she didn't know I was worried that I wouldn't be enough for her. She's got to worry about losing possibly family. She's thinking about losing her job, because the statistics about the amount of transgender people that don't have jobs is remarkably high. We had no idea what our future looked like. We're like everybody else. We have a mortgage and vehicle payments that we have to worry about. And then everything that I would say to her was just that much more weight that was put on her shoulders. And at the time I didn't fully pay attention to what her needs around that was, because I could only pay attention to my pain, and I wanted her to hurt as much as I did. I wanted her to know how much I hurt. I'd say stuff all the time, some stuff I actually meant, and there was a lot of times I would say stuff I didn't mean at all. Just wanted to hurt her, because we are messy as people, and when we hurt, we want others to hurt. I don't recommend that at all, because you can, put your relationship at risk, making them think that you're going to leave them, so they might not transition, or the only way they could be themselves is if they left you, or either way, it's not a good thing to make them think that you don't love them enough to be by their side through this. And it's not a good thing for them to feel like the only way they're ever going to get this pain to stop inside is if they do it alone. And I realized that then, I did it, I did. Every time I said something hurtful, I would, evaluate it, and I realized it. And so I would try to not do it again. And there was times, because I wasn't talking to anybody about my feelings, that, it'd be like 2 months had gone by, and I would say something, just that little jab to hurt her, to put her over the edge. And, doing these videos, she's got to see a part of, what I went through, and communication has been a lot better. I've got to hear what she was going through, and we realize now, our reactions and why we did those things, and we respect each other a lot more for it. We just have this bond that we didn't have before. And that first time I went shopping with her, I remember arguing with her, because going to buy women's undergarments, and arguing and crying about that first time we had to go buy her a bra. And going to Elder Bierman to get that that foundation that matched her skin. And I wondered, is this a fetish or a phase? Is she still going to be the same person? Are her morals going to be what they used to be, her values? You think about all those things, because the world tells you that it's a perversion and it's evil, and so you just have this all in your head, and you go to that department store and you're worried, if we're in the underwear department, if you see somebody, are you going to have to explain something? We did a little bit, I did a little bit of hiding. I avoided people because I didn't know how they would respond, and I didn't want any rejection, and I didn't want anybody to reject my wife either, because that means I would not be able to be a passive aggressive person in that situation. I would have to stand up and be vocal. This situation, I've been a passive aggressive person my whole life, and I can tell you this situation has helped me learn to not be like that as much. My goal is to be able to stand up for them and stop doing that, because you are going to have so many people have their own opinions about your family, and they don't have anything positive to say sometimes, and mostly it's because of their ignorance. I was ignorant about this stuff. I would go through all these steps with Phoenix because I wanted to be through, to be there through all this with her. Because if I was there with her, it helped me see her behavior had changed, her moods. She was more loving, to see her more happy, that when she had watched all these videos trying to find her style, and printing off pictures, and we would go shopping and we would break the budget because she had gone so long with this dysphoria that getting the makeup that she needed, the clothes, the shoes, it gave her a euphoria, and I can tell you, to get started, it does get pretty expensive, but she lit up. It took a lot of courage to even at first to get her into those department stores, because you do get a lot of looks. The first time she always made sure that I was with her to get undergarments, but there was one time that she didn't, and she went by herself. And this elderly couple was walking toward the front, and she had stopped and said, "Oh, look, you're buying underwear for your wife. How nice." Looks at her husband and says, "I wish you'd pick out my underwear." And to them, it was just an innocent thing. They had no idea that my wife is a woman, that she's a transgender person. When she told me about that, it was funny. But when I would take her to go get shoes, my wife loves shoes. What woman doesn't love shoes? If we could have a whole house full of shoes, we would. But she would have to look around to see how many people were watching. And I remember she was looking for boots, and the cute boots for the winter that come up almost to your knees. And all the women that worked there kept kind of like walking by us, and you could tell that we wanted privacy, and they just kept walking by and asking, "Do you need any help?" And you have to look around and see how many other people were watching. She had to go through all that, to the point where she eventually got more comfortable, that you kind of build up a wall and you just stop caring and paying attention to the people around you. We would overlap styles too. I did talk about in previous episodes that she started off with that 90s style, because when she was a teenager, it was the 90s, and she didn't get to wear all that stuff. And I can tell you, she's gotten rid of it all. But now we overlap styles, and I think it's cute to twin, and she doesn't think it's cute to twin. A lot of people will pick outfits out and go out, but I didn't understand. I would get upset, like, why can't we wear the same thing? Who cares? And she was trying to find her own self, her own style. And if she wore the same thing as me, she said, she didn't want people to think that she didn't know how to be who she wanted to be, or she didn't know what she was doing. So you might come across that, and don't get upset if they say you can't wear the same thing on the same day. There's been times I've wore something, and then she comes out and she's got that same thing on, that I've changed, because it's easier for me than it is for her to find something to wear. Just because she's always battling, to look as least manly as possible. And whoever is going through this will have moments where there's passability, your passability, and each step that you're on hormones, your passability changes. You get closer to what you want to look like. And the first time that she got to go out in public, she felt fantastic. I thought she looked fantastic. Nobody paid attention to her when we went to the mall, really. And now she's been on HRT for 18 months, and you look at pictures back then to now, and there's such a huge difference. She's very feminine now compared to then. Her skin is softer, and she looks younger, and she's beautiful. She's even made comments that she never thought that she would get this far, even, because you have in your head, if you don't start young, or you weren't born that way, you aren't going to get to where you want to be, and I encourage her all the time. She did spend a lot of time on social media, support groups, and watching videos on how to do makeup, and like how to carry herself. And I would get kind of lonely, but I didn't want to say anything to her, because one, I didn't want to seem that I didn't want to show that I was unsupportive, and I didn't want her. I knew that she needed it, inside, that she needed it, because it was a reminder that she was going to be that much closer to where she wanted to be in life. And I went through every step with her, and I made it known to her, even her support groups. That's my world too. I may not be trans, but my entire family is trans, my wife and my son. So that is my world. And going to those groups with her has helped me, emotionally, especially when I wasn't seeing a therapist. That really helped. I encourage that. I've heard stories about couples, their significant other will not show them they're doing the baby steps, and it's because they're afraid to lose them. They would go out with their friends as their dressed up self, but won't ever go out with their wife as their authentic self. And if you show that you're supportive and you want to do that, that they don't have to tiptoe around you, and that you're gonna love them through it all, they're gonna be more willing to show you their full self. And if you're worried about not wanting to show yourself to your significant other, if they're begging you to go through all this, I wholeheartedly believe that you should let them. How are you supposed to heal and move forward and bond without going through all those steps? Rather that's your if you're female to male, or male to female, you definitely need to go through all those steps. The first time Phoenix and I got a wig, it was an expensive wig, but she wasn't too happy with it. It had a lot of blonde in it, and my wife is not a blonde at all. So we went on a long kind of adventure with our friend Brittany, and it's a few hours. Let me just say that it's out of state, and the owner there is fantastic. She's trans as well, and the sales lady that helped us, she was fantastic. Normally they have rules where you can only try on 1 to 2 wigs because some people like to come in and just try them all on and it wears them out and they don't buy anything. And we would, find what Phoenix would possibly like, and she would try it on. And we had a couple had already picked out that she wanted to get. And the sales lady let us keep trying them on because we were buying wigs. And I remember Phoenix's face the first time she found one she loved, and she looked gorgeous. She went in there kind of reluctant, like, yeah, this one's all right, and she found one she absolutely loved, and her whole demeanor changed. She went from kind of moody to instant smile, and she was just glowing. She actually had a hard time taking that one off so she could try other ones on. And she bought 2 of that wig. And she bought that same wig in a different color. And she has names for all of them too. The wig that she got, so there's a total of 3. She got one in like a purplish blue color. That was her party wig. But my wife left there when we went out to eat. She was just glowing and happy and was ready to be in public. When you see that stuff, it's such a huge pick me up. You're just happy for them. It makes everything that you've had to go through and all the things that you're brought up to believe worth not giving a crap about anymore. We went back to the same store. It was a few months later, and the same sales lady that helped us the first time helped us the second time, and she remembered who we were, and she followed us through the whole store and helped us again and let us try on as many as we wanted. And my wife even tried on that Mama's Family looking wig. That was terrible. The second time when we got to go, though, the owner, who is trans, she had a boob job, and I had made a comment, that she wow, she don't have a bra on? And she said, oh no, like, her breasts look fantastic. They were firm and perky. She's like, oh, those are fake. So she yells for the lady to come in, and this lady lifted up her shirt. So not only did we get, good deals, but we got to see the owner's boobs. So that made the trip interesting. Usually our adventurous trips usually involve Brittany. If you are looking for a hairstylist, I'm sorry, because Phoenix was growing out her hair, as she was wearing these wigs, it was because she was letting the rest of her hair grow out, and we had to find a hairstylist. And I would go to a hairstylist, and I had her do my hair, and you kind of do some feelers, because stylists talk a lot, and then you hear them talking about, this one has a gay daughter, so that they are a little more familiar with the LGBTQ community. So you would put out more feelers, you'd let them have a little glimpse of what your life's like. And then, my son, who hadn't socially transitioned yet, I'd take him in there, use the same stylist, and she would cut his hair. And you throw out a little more fillers. And then you're like, well, my wife is trans and she's trying to grow out her hair. And it gets pretty emotional for her every time she has to get a haircut. And, she was fantastic. She said, oh yeah, bring her in. So when we took Phoenix, she told her what she wanted. So she said, okay, we can do this. And then she explained how the growth process would be. that you would have this haircut, and then each time that you went, it would drop, until your sides were even with your back. And you are gonna have to do that. You're gonna have to do that with doctors even. I've had my doctor since I was 3, and my doctor is not comfortable dealing with Jackson or Phoenix's trans issues. He'll happily see them for, if they're ill or, have high cholesterol or anything like that. But if they need a physical, so that they can have surgery, he doesn't want anything to do with that. So, now I have to find a new doctor. And you have to do that for a lot of things. Sometimes, if you're trying to get out of your comfort zone and you're building up that courage to go to the department store, you can call them. You can talk to a manager, find out what their least busiest hours are, and find out if they would, have an issue with them going into the fitting room, trying on these clothes. There are many stories that I've heard of people doing this for their kids or their wives. I went to the makeup counter with my wife. Usually, she says that I'm her comfort. So I usually will go in there and I will start and say, hey, my wife needs something that matches her skin tone. And usually I don't get a lot of looks. Usually they're like, okay. And, we've been very fortunate, through all of that. So I just wanted to share all that with you. I did finally go to a therapist. It had been a year and a half later. And I had talked to him about all the feelings that I went through. And, it was refreshing for him to tell me I wasn't crazy, that everything I had gone through was completely normal. And did I need to speak to somebody? He said, absolutely, because I don't have an outlet. But did I need it because I'm crazy? No. And I had already done so many things before getting to him that I did have a hard time, knowing what to talk about. It was kind of like a repeat type thing, because I did, I went to Phoenix's therapist a couple of times, and before I went to my doctor, I also talked to Phoenix. We did open up our communication better. I went to, like I talked about earlier, I did go to some groups, some supporting groups, and heard some of their stories. So I go, haven't gone in a couple months, so I'm about to do. I had went to Jackson's pediatric treatment center that we're going to, and before they get things started, they have you talk to like the facility psychiatrist, and they usually talk to you first, and they talk to the children, and then they'll get started. Well, I had gone last Monday, and it was pretty funny. This lady is asking me all these questions, and I've been going through this over 2 years now, so I've had a lot of time to process. And she's asking me how I'm doing, if I'm all right. You need to talk to somebody. I said, I do have a therapist. And she said, how are you coping? I'm like, I'm fine. I've had over 2 years to absorb this. And she's pulling out her phone and pulling out pamphlets and, trying to find support groups. And I was like, yeah, I said, is this support group for Jackson? Well, it's more for you than it is for him, because you have a trans wife and a trans son. So you're, it's mostly for you. You didn't ask for this. And it was pretty comical, this lady. I appreciate that she was trying to, work for me. But by the time I talked to her and filled her in on everything, she did tell me that I have it pretty well together for going through all I've gone through. And I find that comical, because it was a lot at first, but I wouldn't change it for anything. Not what I have now, not at all. Well, that's all I have, and I want to just thank everybody for watching and supporting us. Remember to like, follow, subscribe. and share our videos across social media. We are on Facebook and YouTube. And if you have any emails that you would like to send us, whether they're questions, comments, or what have you, you can email us at transverseunfiltered@gmail.com. From my family to yours, we love you. Until next time, we'll talk to you later.